Have I lost my mind? What's up, Internet? I don't even know what I'm actually going to do in this video because I have more Switch games in front of me than I can physically maneuver in any way that would make sense. But what we're going to do today is go over my Nintendo Switch collection. Filming this on, I believe, January 4th, January 3rd maybe. And at this point, we don't know what the next Nintendo console is. This is me kind of reconciling my Nintendo Switch collection in the way of, I want to talk about these games, I want to decide if I'm keeping certain ones, and I also want to decide what in 2025 I intend to play. Let's get into it. I have no better way to do this than to just start grabbing whatever I want to talk about. At some point, this collection was alphabetical. Then I never officially added the new games that I've been picking up here and there. I have not been buying Switch games like crazy like I was in previous years because I've regained some amount of my sanity, possibly, and I'm also a little bit more realistic in terms of what I could actually play and why I want it on my shelf. And that's kind of what I'm doing in this video. I need to also determine, like, is this something I'm going to play this year, next year, ever? Let's get into it. What am I going to grab first? Let's go with something that's going to be an easy base for me to stack things on. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, the launch title for the Switch. Obviously not this edition. I also have the big box, ridiculous, well, the step below the ridiculous edition. I don't have the Master Sword one, but I do have the one that came with the cool Sheikah Slate carrying case. I picked this up at some point with the Explorers Edition, with the guide and everything. A game I really want to revisit at some point, especially if I intend to ever play Tears of the Kingdom, which I have not. It would be really good to finally finish this game off. Pause? Why did I say it that way? Just because I've heard so many people talk about not being able to go back after playing Tears of the Kingdom. Like, it would be such a step backwards that they don't want to do that. So I don't even know where I'm going to stack things, just because I did want to kind of make piles and then at the end of the video be like, this is what I'm keeping, this is what I'm not. But there's so much stuff on this table that I don't know if that's even going to be possible. With that said, let's look at Tears of the Kingdom. I picked this up probably at some point last year from my friend Sam. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but a game that I would love to get to. Definitely going to have to stay in my collection. And possibly the best game on the Nintendo Switch from what I've heard. So definitely would like to play that. Let's go back to the beginning of the alphabet. Here's something that I shouldn't have in my collection. And I only have it because, well, if you've ever seen my backdrop back there, it's an Among Us throw blanket from the ejected edition of the game, which I don't even have the box for. I think I threw that out. And it comes with all this extra stuff. Now, have I ever played Among Us? Technically, I helped my goddaughter win by throwing up a sabotage when she was playing with like 2 of her cousins. But that's like literally taking candy from a baby practically. So I have not really played Among Us, but I watched the hell out of this game on YouTube. So it's something I picked up because I like the game. I'm going to keep it just because it does have that aspect for me. As I've said in many videos before, I'm less of a game player and more of a game enjoyer, in the sense that I I've been watching Let's Play videos forever. And honestly, for anything that's not Nintendo, I watch multiple people, but the main one is like the Rad Brad, and that is how I get to see like the PlayStation games that I want to see. All right, here's a pair of games: Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon 1 and 2. Now, I actually, oddly enough, have played and beat the first Bloodstained, Curse of the Moon. I did this in preparation for Bloodstained Ritual of Night coming out, which we also have over here. And I just never ended up playing Ritual of the Night because I heard that there was some I was just about to coin a new word. Switch issues. Nope, that doesn't make sense. Issues with playing it on the Switch when it launched, and I don't know if they ever really fixed that, but I feel like the hype behind me trying to play it is kind of gone. However, I did enjoy Curse of the Moon and the old school Castlevania-esque style that I definitely needed to get Curse of the Moon 2. And of course, I haven't played this, but it's open, being a limited run game. Rare to see them open on people's shelves because, well, this is back when they sent cards, and I always hated the idea of having this trading card just like floating around my collection. So I always made sure to open the game and put the card in there just to be the most diligent with keeping everything together. Now, let's just kind of run down the alphabet here. Blade Strangers, a fighting game. I actually played through this a couple times with a few different characters. Really interesting fighting game. Involves characters from the NIS. Is it NIS or Nicalis? Nicalis. Fighters from Code of Princess EX, Cave Story, Umahara Kawase, Binding of Isaac, and more. Yeah, definitely like possibly the most eclectic fighter in terms of a roster you can get. I always mix up NIS and Nicalis for some reason, but I did play, well, let's see, one of the other games around that time, Code of Princess. I actually had this on the 3DS, and it was mostly just a collectible for me back then, but this was from the early days of the Nintendo Switch when there was actually a reasonably small amount of games to choose from, and I ended up playing probably like 10 hours of this game and enjoyed a decent amount of it. It's hard for me to let go of things just because I have played them, I have put some time into it. It's like, it's a weird qualifier where it's just like, if I'm never going to play it and I don't want to play it, I'm trying to think of like an example here. All these are like games I really want to play. Alright, let's just keep going down the line. Capcom Belt Action. This is a beat-em-up collection that has, of course, none of it's in English because this is an import game. But from what I remember, Knights of the Round, Captain Commando, King of Dragons, Final Fight, Battle Circuit. I say from memory, but I'm actually reading it on the back of the... Not all this is in Japanese. But I've definitely messed with this quite a bit. And it's even not in here because it's with my Switch at the moment. Which a bunch of these are in my Switch case as is. Capcom Fighting Collection, and I guess I'll put this with it. Recently acquired the Capcom Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. One of the things I do really enjoy about collecting for the Switch and just collecting in general is compilations. Sure, I could have, and I have had Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2 on the Dreamcast. A bunch of the other games like Marvel Superheroes on the PS1. Like, I'll have like all these games on random systems. Once you can collect it all in one place on one cartridge or one disc, it's such a satisfying feeling for me, and I just kind of chase that with my collecting Like being able to get everything in one place. Like there's a very short list of games that I would really like to play, but I'm a little bit holding out for them to be either ported to the Switch, the next generation Nintendo console, or just being part of a compilation. Like Skies of Arcadia, for one, I've wanted to play that game forever, but I'm not dropping 100 plus to play it on the GameCube or the Dreamcast. Anyway, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. This is a game I keep meaning to return to. Back when the Wii U was the only place to play this, you were really, as a Nintendo fan, you were struggling for games so badly that pretty much any Nintendo released game you had to at least try out. And I enjoyed it a decent amount, but it was also very frustrating because it used the, or at least I remember it using the gamepad a decent amount. But who knows? I could just be misremembering that. Castlevania Advance Collection. Now, they also came out with the Dominus Collection. Actually, that's going to be in the stack over here because these are the unprocessed games that I haven't put away. We have the Advance Collection, and I'm realizing I also have the regular collection up there, but it's the special edition with the light-up box. Back as pretty much the only holdover from when I was actually doing collector's editions on the Switch. I really intend to play the Castlevania games eventually, so those are gonna stay. I haven't cut a single game yet. Celeste. Now, I've played a little bit of this when I was at my goddaughter's house. They had it downloaded on, I believe, the Xbox One. I played a little bit of it, enjoyed what I saw, and once it came to the Switch, I needed to pick it up. I haven't actually tried it on the Switch yet. It's always so nice when I come across a game that I've actually played and completed. Cosmic Star Heroine, another very early game for the Switch from Limited Run, and it reminded me so much of playing Chrono Trigger. It's a very, I guess I would call it a very simple RPG, but also so satisfying in that simplicity. I remember there being a lot of twists and turns. You gotta think, this was like 7 years ago that I played this. That's wild. But absolutely loved this game. Very happy to finish games when I actually get the time. Maybe I'll get the time this year to actually play a few more of these. This is alright. This one could theoretically be something I could cut. I'm gonna have to look into this more. I'm gonna put this in a maybe pile. Crosscode. I have this because I got it at the flea market at some point for, I want to say like $30. I went to a flea market in New York. It came with a steelbook, which I believe I've sold separately to pretty much get my money back. This is still brand new sealed. This was a limited copy, I guess. Only 3,000 physical editions, but I'm going to put this in a maybe pile. We're going to put this right over here, which is off screen, so you can't even tell that I put it anywhere else. Anyway, Double Dragon Gaiden, Rise of the Dragons. Do I know anything about this specifically? It could suck. I'm not sure. It's a beat 'em up. It's hard for me to say I'm never going to play a beat 'em up. A beat 'em up, generally, you can get through in like a good hour or two of your time, if that. So this is going to be staying with me until I determine whether or not I like it. So nice to see something that I've finished, for the most part. Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3. This was the compilation that they came out with very early on. At the beginning of the pandemic, I started Dragon Quest. I was on like a roll during the pandemic because, well, I resell video games generally for a living, so when the pandemic rolled around, there wasn't any work to be out of or return to. I just kind of existed. And business was booming back then, but I wasn't able to go and source, so I got so much time to go play games that I intended to play for years and years. So, Dragon Quest 1, Dragon Quest 2, Final Fantasy 1, Final Fantasy 2, finally played those games that are like the foundations of everything we love about RPGs, JRPGs that is. And I was right on track to play 3, and then they announced the remake, which I have in this stack somewhere. Right here, actually. So, might as well dig that out. So, I will eventually, hopefully early 2025, be playing through Dragon Quest III, the HD 2D remake, to finally finish out that trilogy. And if I'm going the way that I'm planning to, Dragon Quest XI I'll get to in maybe 11 years. So, there's that. I hear great things about it. Yuden Chronicle, 100 Heroes, and also Rising, the prequel game. Now, I was a backer for this. It actually kind of sucked the way it turned out, because I kept seeing all these emails, because it was a Kickstarter game. They flood you with emails. I ended up getting this game like a month late, despite being there in like the first week of the Kickstarter being open. And that's because at some point they ask you via email to verify your address and pay like $5 shipping. And when you're sending 7 to 10 emails a week about the game, I'm gonna miss it. So it wasn't until I started seeing people like literally talking about spoilers on the game that I even realized the game had finally come out after like 4 years of being on Kickstarter. So once again, it's a spiritual successor to Suikoden, so I feel like I'm contractually obligated, being a Suikoden fan, to finally play this at some point. Elder Scrolls Skyrim. A wonder that they got this on the Switch, which I say, but it's also a 360 game. So we shouldn't be amazed at that, but just being able to play this game portably was amazing, and it was a very early title for the Switch. I feel like at the time when Breath of the Wild was out, I kind of thought I would never be able to go back to this, but it's still Skyrim. It's still amazing. Elder Scrolls 6 can't come soon enough, but they gotta get some of that jank out of their system with what I heard about Starfield and everything. Alright, so we have the Final Fantasy Collection, Pixel Remaster Collection, I guess is what they're calling it. I had to pick this up via PlayAsia, I believe, so it doesn't have the ESRB on it. I know they re-released this recently, and it does have the ESRB on it. I don't care about that stuff. For a system like Switch that is region-free, it doesn't matter to me. As long as I can play it in English, we're cool. I have not played through any of the games on here. When I did play 1 and 2 during the pandemic, I did play those on the PSP. So I'll eventually continue on with 3, 4, 5, and 6. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. I feel like we skipped ahead. This stopped being alphabetical at some point. Would love to play this. I did pick it up amongst all the hype when it came out. I believe GameStop gave a really good trade-in deal where you basically got extra credit to get this. I've not played the first Paper Mario game or any Paper Mario game unless it also involved Mario and Luigi. I believe I played a little bit of Paper Jam. Ooh, huh. Ooh. This next one's embarrassing. I don't even want to show this, but I'm going to. Perky Little Things. So, there's a subset of games that Funbox Media has been putting out, or was putting out, or maybe still is. I've kind of lost track. And I believe I still have all, if not most of them up to a certain point. Maybe I got rid of some that I realized just like, it's not for me. Like, I'm not going to, as someone who is trying to be a respectable adult, actually sit there and play a game like this. This is some not safe for work, not safe for YouTube content. As you can imagine, you could look it up yourself. I'm not really going to talk about it because I haven't actually played that one, but there is some stuff in here that I have played that we'll talk about near the end, I believe. Persona 5 Royal during the collecting quest, I believe I was calling it, that I was doing on YouTube. This was one of the main goals to get this game. I still have yet to open it and play it, but I feel like once I get like ahead of steam on RPGs, I do tend to play through them relatively quickly. I am currently involved in a roadblock with the latest Zelda game, which I always blank on the title, Echoes of Wisdom. And that I've told myself that's going to be the first Zelda game I actually finish, because I've always like put like maybe 10 hours in and then, but I've been so busy with everything else that I haven't really been putting any time into it. But well, I have it here somewhere. Shouldn't I talk about it in order? We'll just skip it when we got to it, because I basically talked about Echoes of Wisdom. Anyway, Sayonara Wild Hearts. I know almost nothing about this game, to be honest. I believe it's a music rhythm game of some sort, and I hear it's very short. So, in the interest of getting ahead of steam on games and wanting something to play for like a day and being done with it, it's gonna stay in the collection. Wow, I've gotten rid of nothing. Maybe I'll get rid of this. Poi Explorers Edition. Very early game for the Nintendo Switch. I remember this was this and the something Heroes game. 100 Heroes, 99 Heroes, something game. In the early days of Switch, if you went to GameStop, you were guaranteed to see that game, the 99, 88 Heroes, whatever it was, and this were like the cheapest, most affordable games to get. And honestly, I could highly recommend this up to a certain point. It was a very fun platformer, very reminiscent of Super Mario 64. Eventually you reach a level that's just like, hey, how about we play a platformer in the dark? How about we go fuck ourselves? Is basically how that felt. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, they're Pokemon games. Because of the TCG game that I've been playing on mobile, I have had the itch to go play a Pokemon game, preferably one that doesn't suck, like this one. Now, I enjoyed playing through it. My issue as an adult is not so much the bad frame rate and glitches that are ever present in this game. I've fallen through the world multiple times. The game runs like ass. I don't believe they've fixed it. With the expansions, I believe I've heard it only gets worse. My main issue with it is that it's way too easy. It's way too easy. Like, they gotta... Pokemon Company needs to... Game Freak needs to realize that their audience is also growing up and put some sort of challenge in their games again. Because I feel like I specifically get so excited for these Pokemon games, and then it's like you have to make your own challenge. You have to like make up your own rules. You gotta have it be a Nuzlocke run, or you gotta only catch this Pokemon like the first. It's just like, just make the game difficult enough for some people, but easy and accessible enough for people to learn. That's all I ask. I don't know. What an amazing game here. Rayman Legends Definitive Edition. Very early title for the Switch. Honestly, if you haven't played Rayman Legends, it's constantly available for like $17 to $20 brand new at Walmart's, Target's probably. I highly recommend it. Any of the music-based levels are absolutely classic. So here's the thing. Ubisoft. I know you're probably not going to exist in 2026 at this rate. I feel like rather than fucking around with all these Assassin's Creed games that may or may not suck, hard to say, why have you never returned to Rayman? Why are we getting Raving Rabbids stuff? The spin-off title. Rayman Legends. Rayman Origins. Hell, port Origins to the Switch. I'd be happy with that. It's ridiculous. Alright, now we're getting into more of the RPGs that I would love to have time to play. This one comes with a slipcover. I don't remember. I think this is the slipcover you get from basically ordering it from the company rather than getting it a month earlier from any other retail location. Sea of Stars. With the slipcover. Haven't opened it yet. Another RPG that I have heard great things about and that is very similar to Chrono Trigger. I feel like that's like possibly a hack for selling your game, is comparing it to Chrono Trigger. I feel like so many RPGs get compared to Chrono Trigger, and some of them do feel very much like that, like Cosmic Star Heroine. But I feel like that's almost like a marketing ploy at this point. The game that single-handedly murdered my Sega Genesis collection, because you really don't need to have a physical Sega Genesis collection when you can play it all on the Switch. Literally. I think after they released this game, we were down to one game that I actually wanted to play on the Sega Genesis that I couldn't play on the Switch. And then Limited Run went and solved that with Rocket Knight Adventures Resparked. That's everything you need. And the Cowabunga collection got you on Hyperstone Heist. So, Genesis collectors, I don't know what you're doing. To be honest. Shots fired. Here's a game I would love to get back into. I played this on a road trip on the 3DS, I believe. And I have yet to play the Switch version. I have not played any of the DLC. As someone who's not great at NES hard games, this was very difficult for me. So I want to say, like, maybe I can't actually get through it, but I would like to try. Slay the Spire. This is a game that frustrates me in how fun it is, how awesomely it is designed, yet somehow goes over my head, and I hear of people just like absolutely destroying this game when they play it, and I'm struggling. I don't get it. It actually is still in the case, which is weird, because usually this game is with my Switch in the carrying case. SNK 40th Anniversary. Of course, it's a collection. It's going to stay here. This one does not really tell me what's on it, but I do know I have popped it in the Switch in the past and scrolled through, and there was some interesting stuff. I have a list on my phone of like all the compilation games that are on compilations that I no longer need to look out for because I have them on the Switch. Another very early title, Snipper Clips. I always wanted to play this with my wife. I feel like this would be a very frustrating game to play with a loved one, but I think maybe the time has passed on it. My wife doesn't really play games anymore. I mean, how would we if we have a kid? If one of us is gonna be holding a controller, he's gonna want to hold a controller, so I'd be playing with him at that point. Star Ocean, Second Story R. This was I believe the remake, or maybe it was just a port. I don't really remember. PS1 game that I had back in the day that I played probably like 15 hours of. Would like to get back to it eventually on the Switch. Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection. Pretty much any compilation is going to stay in the collection. That's just pretty basic for me. Streets of Rage 4. Is this in the... Yeah, this is it. This is with the Switch right now. Beat 'em up that I very much intend to try playing at some point, hopefully soon. I've cut one game, potentially. Wow. Super Bomberman R2. Now, the first game is no longer in my collection because holy hell did the first game suck. I do not know how Bomberman 2 or Bomberman R2 plays, but I have hopes for it because I love Bomberman. I would love to have a very good Bomberman game on the Switch. Actually, I think they might have put Super Bomberman 2 on the Nintendo Switch Online, which would be a great thing because that game was my childhood Bomberman game. Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Everybody had to pick it up. It did get limited. Nintendo was not bluffing, so it's gonna stay with my collection. Possibly not the ideal way to play these games, from what I've heard. Super Mario 3D World and plus Bowser's Fury. I've tried to play Bowser's Fury. I don't know if it's the... like, some games are hard to return to, just like I was saying with Breath of the Wild and how I'm afraid to go to that, to go to Tears of the Kingdom and before I finish Breath of the Wild, that is. I feel like there was a point in my life with the Wii U, maybe it was a little bit of what the kids call copium. I was calling Mario 3D World my favorite Mario game. And when I played it, when it was ported to the Switch, I just don't see it. Like, having played Mario Odyssey, I just don't see how this was at one point my favorite Mario game. So, I'm going to leave it at that. Final Fantasy IX. Weird that they did that. Thanks, PlayAsia. I mean, I'm gonna return to the classic PS1 Final Fantasies eventually. I did play them when they first came out. So I did just have to look and confirm. That's right, this video did not contain Final Fantasy 7 and 8 release for the Switch. And I'm thinking I must have loaned it to a friend because it kind of broke my brain that it wasn't here. Ooh, probably two of my favorite games on the Switch. Fire Emblem, Three Houses, and Fire Emblem Engage. Fire Emblem, Three Houses, I love the gameplay and the characters. I don't believe there is a more beautiful, artistic game, art style-wise, on any system more beautiful than Fire Emblem Engage. I had the poster on my wall for a while. Absolutely, whoever this artist is that did the artwork for this game, S tier. I don't know. Like, the game also great, but I'm just like blown away by the art every time I'm watching the game in action. Golf Story. Now, this one could theoretically be on the cut. I'll put it in the maybe pile. I've had this since like year 2 of the Switch, I think is when it came out. Limited run. Does this even say? It says 15, so it might have been like year 2. I haven't gotten to it. I don't know if I ever will. Grandia HD Collection. I played mostly Grandia 3, which is not on here, but I would like to return to the original Grandia games. It's like one of my missions to play through the beginning of at least every franchise. Like, so I did it with Dragon Quest, I did it with Final Fantasy. I want to do it with Grandia. I want to do it with... I was about to name 2 series that don't really have easily accessible ones, like Star Ocean, which I don't believe we got on anything in the United States, and Tales of, which I don't believe we got unless it was like a GBA port. So at some point I want to get to the beginning of these games. Just like I have delusions that I'll ever have time to get through the Ace Attorney games. So here I have The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, which is kind of a prequel. I'll put this in the maybe pile, but I can almost guarantee that's going to stay. Guilty Gear, the 20th Anniversary Pack fighting game compilation, that's staying. This one can get the fuck out of here. This was a $5 pickup at Walmart. Why is this on my shelf? Harvest Moon Light of Hope Complete. I am not into those kind of games. There was a time when the Super Nintendo game came out that I really thought I was going to be into it, and then it was extremely rare. No video game store, no toy store, no Blockbuster in Connecticut in my area even knew the game existed because they got 0 copies. So it was literally impossible for me to play as a kid. And I think the first instance of us having any exposure to it was the Game Boy Color version, which I found incredibly boring. Hulla, a game that I played through, I believe, last year, maybe the year before. A quick, probably like 3 or 4 hour game. It's telling a beautiful story. I don't know. It's one of those things, I feel like people talk about the story of it and like the art of it. I feel like the gameplay was my favorite part of this game. Like, just the actual, like, second-to-second gameplay of it, where you're going through and each little part of the story you're going through has a new mechanic for you. Here's a new mechanic in this area. Here's a new mechanic in that area. But you kept the old mechanics. I guess I'm just describing basically a Metroidvania without the actual Metroidvania part. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know why my case is damaged. Katamari Damacy reroll. I never get far in this game. I'm not very good at it, but it is a PS2 classic that I did have in my collection as a kid. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. I would say that I would love to play this year, but I loaned this out to my goddaughter, and I don't know if she even still knows that it exists, so it's just a case on my shelf. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I'm going to say something controversial about this. And this is coming from somebody playing only in handheld mode for the most part. For some reason, playing this game on the Switch is very uncomfortable for me. the way I hold the controller. So I never played this for very long. I believe it's still with the Switch, yeah. Just in case, someone wants to go head to head. It is probably the Mario Kart game that I am the best at. Absolutely dominated my friends when it was on Wii U. Mostly because I had the home field advantage of owning the game and the Wii U. Live Alive, Live Alive. I don't remember how to say this one. I feel like it should be Live Alive, but no one's going to side with me on that one. I am basically, I would estimate 2 to 3 nut hairs away from finishing this game. But I don't know if I ever will. The last character that I have to finish is, I believe it's the Twilight of the Edo Japan era. And it's like the one where you could go and either kill everybody on your way to the end, or spare everybody, or do something in between. And I was trying to follow a guide for it to, like, not have to kill everybody, because that's, like, the best way to do it, supposedly. And I just keep fucking it up. So it's like, I just, like, kind of frustrated myself out of that game. I literally don't know what happens after you play through all the characters' missions. I literally have no idea. No one spoiled me on it. I don't welcome anybody to, because I'd like to get back to this game eventually, but it's gonna be a while before I do so. Kirby Return to Dreamland Deluxe. I love Kirby games when I actually take the time to play them. I have not with that one yet. Klonoa. Now, this is one that I felt like I needed to get. There's been a rash of PS1 ports via limited run games. I believe that's who did these. Maybe not. This one was PlayAsia of some sort from Bandai Namco. But we also have Tomba, or Tomba as I'd probably say it should be. There's a lot of random, like, pronunciation on games that I completely disagree with. Like, well, Tomba. I don't know why people on the internet say it that way. But I'll have to defer to their wisdom in that regard. But they just feel like games I need to have in my collection because, well, for one, they save you a lot of money by buying them on the Switch. Because both of these games or the individual games that make up these collections are pretty expensive. Here's a series that I don't know how I feel about, because I tried to play Mercenary Saga Chronicles pretty early in the Switch. I enjoy strategy RPGs, tactical RPGs, whatever you want to call them. But these are very bland. Very, very bland, or at least the first game is. So, conceptually, playing through multiple of them, where I got Mercenary Wings, The False Phoenix, and Mercenaries Blaze, Dawn of the Twin Dragons, and there's another game that I don't have. These games are potentially on the cutting block. Pac-Man Pack Arcade compilation, you know where that's going. Monster Crown, Pokemon-like. Maybe this is what I should try. I feel like I'll either love this or absolutely hate it, just based on what it is, being a Pokemon-like. Neo Geo Pocket Color Selection Volume 1. The game that killed my Neo Geo Pocket collection. I actually looked at the Volume 2 game list and I determined I didn't need it, so I think I'm pretty good on Neo Geo Pocket games now. New Pokemon Snap. This game does not live up to the hype of the first one, but I've put probably like 10 hours into it. Nickelodeon Kart Racers Collection. Over there. That was a cheap Walmart pickup. Ninja Saviors Return of the Warriors. I have played a little bit of this last year. I'm not sure how I feel about it. There's aspects of it that I find fun, and then I don't know if it's interesting enough for me to continue playing. I'll just put it that way. So this will be a maybe. That game has been a maybe since I got it, to be honest. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. I've heard so many good things about this game. I would like to hear about how it plays on the Switch, so if you know, let me know. Because absolutely beautiful art style. Of course it is. It's level 5. Ghibli-esque, if not Ghibli directly. So, would like to play that eventually. Super Mario Odyssey, the best Mario game they've made. I don't think that's really that much of a controversial take. Super Mario Wonder, possibly the most medium Mario game they've made. Super Mario RPG, the remake. I played through this either last year or the year before. I don't remember when it came out, to be honest with you. And I loved it, but it is very aged, and it's weird going back to a game that I didn't really get to play because I was watching my friend play it, and knowing that I could have easily done it myself. I don't know. Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania. This is not the one that is good. I always get confused on which ones these are. This one was like a cheap $10 to $5 pickup at Walmart when it was on clearance. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I'm just going to run through these ones. Just, like, these are basic games, you know? Tactics Ogre Reborn. I know I've played through a decent amount of this game when it was out on the PSP. I had it when it was on PS1. Obviously going to keep it. Gonna try and get back to it. Tales of Symphonia Remastered. I've recently heard that this is not a good port of the game, so I am unsure if that's going to be worth my time, but, you know, it's a classic game. Hopefully it is. Cowabunga Collection. Wow. Absolutely love playing that. My son won't let me play that alone, and we don't get far because he doesn't like to move. He's too young to conceptually understand that you press direction buttons to move. He wants to keep touching the screen. Shredder's Revenge. Nice effort, I would say. I prefer the older beat-em-up games. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. I actually haven't tried that out on there, but I did play those back in the day. Trials Rising. Very frustrating game, but very, very, very fun game. I have played a decent amount of that. Triangle Strategy. One of the games on the Switch I have completed. I would say if you are looking to play this, maybe look at a guide, just because there's a lot of things you could do to kind of screw yourself that you can't really undo. And it kind of sucks in that regard. Like, certain characters, you're not going to be able to upgrade their weapons all the way because you spent finite resources elsewhere. Really annoying. Turnip Boy commits tax evasion. I got this really cheap at a trade event. It seems goofy. I kind of want to try it, but at the same time, I've heard nothing about it, so this will be in the maybe cut pile. I don't know. Unicorn Overlord, game that came out this year, was on a lot of people's top RPG, top game of the list. Did not get any of the awards from what I remember, but very bloated year in that regard for RPGs in general. I would love to play it. I got this probably on clearance for $30. Unravel 2. I think my wife got me this. It's like very similar to what's the game? Little Big Planet in the multiplayer aspect. So a game that we played back in the day. Oh, some really embarrassing games up next. All right, here we go. Ooh, waifu. Waifu Uncovered, Waifu Discovered 2, Medieval Fantasy. This one's open. I'm going to leave that where it is. Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Absolute classic. Absolute classic. Loved this game on the Super Nintendo's where I played it. Nintendo World Championships NES Edition. This is a game, just like many others that come out, and everybody who owns a Switch feels like they need to own it. And I'm going to say, while it's very cool packaging, I'm sure it's some fun. It's not going to be for me long term. Prince of Persia, Lost Crown. One of the games I hear on podcasts talked about the most. Unfortunately, the developers have been disbanded, I believe, and will not get a chance to follow up on this. Very good Metroidvania from what I hear. Castle Crashers Remastered. I played a little bit of this at a friend's house on Xbox 360 when it came out. And it was fun, but it was one of those games you play for like an hour, and then it's time to go home, and then I never encountered it again. Grim Grimoire Once More. PS2 game that got ported, possibly remastered. Don't know much about it. We'll look into it eventually. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All-Star Battle R. That could stay right here in this pile because I don't know anything about JoJo's other than it's an anime, but I got that cheap, so it was in my collection. Persona 5 Tactica. Talk about having so many barriers to entry for me specifically to be able to play this. I haven't played through Persona 3, 4, or 5 in completion. I played a little bit of 3 and 4. This is a game you would play after 5, which is already like a 80 to 100 hour RPG. I'm going to hold on to it, but I don't know. Here's one that I picked up recently. This is possibly my most recent Switch pickup on the channel. Love Esquire. I got this on a Black Friday deal. Paid probably like $25 for it. Get good, get laid. That's the second time I've said that on the channel, I'm pretty sure. And I don't... What am I doing with my life? Why is this staying in my collection? Alright, we're down to the last stack. We're approaching 50 minutes. Hit that like button. Leave a comment below if you've made it to the 50-minute mark, because... Why are you still here? Please get better things to do with your life, but I really appreciate you. Some questionable games in this stack. Felix the Cat, game I played on the NES, but this also has the Game Boy version from what I understand. Really enjoyed it. Did a Let's Play something on it way back in the day. Holy shit, I have games in here for my kid. All right. Peppa Pig and Baby Shark Sing and Swim Party. These are games that I got on clearance, and there's a life where I'll eventually let my son play with a Switch without fear of him destroying it completely. And he might want to play one of these games, so they're here. Cobra Kai 2, Dojo Rising. I got rid of the first game. It was probably the best example of a beat 'em up that just does not work for me. Once again, another clearance game. This whole stack is like stuff I've gotten recently, so got this on clearance at Walmart. We'll try it out. Maybe it's fun. I love the series. Echoes of Wisdom. We talked about this earlier. I'm still struggling to get through it. It's kind of my roadblock for gaming overall, to be honest. Here's a game no one's heard of. Jim Power and the Lost Dimension. It's got a whole bunch of extra text on the spine there, which you can't read. Cubite Classics by Pico. This was a strictly limited game. This is a Super Nintendo game I had as a kid. That came with 3D glasses. What the hell? And then finally, the import for Phoenix Wright Trilogy, which I hope to get to at some point in the future. And this was the card that came with Jim Power. So, in retrospect, have I really trimmed anything? What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games that might be leaving the Switch collection. I have a problem. Send help. Hit the like button, and we'll be seeing you.